Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Creativity Broadcast. I'm your host, Laura Westman, here to talk to you about one of my favorite topics and something that I get asked all the time as a credentialed and certified leadership coach, working particularly with people who would like to be more creative or learn more about how to apply their own creativity into their leadership. This question is, how do I get my team to be more creative? So, what a fun one. In this video, I've got 5 things to think about and to practice and try to make your team more creative and more fun and more dynamic. Who doesn't want that? So the first thing you need to think about as a leader, if you want your team to be more creative, maybe you've even gone so far as to tell them explicitly, hey, I want you to be more creative, and they're not really doing anything differently. The first thing that you need to do is to sit down and think about and define what does more creative actually mean to you, so that you are clear about what you're looking for and what your expectations might be. So I recommend, if this is resonating with you, that you pause this video, sit down, and write an answer to that question. What does more creative actually mean to you? The last thing that we want is asking something of our teams that is not accessible, quantifiable, or to have them feeling like there's a moving target. I think as leaders, we want to empower our team as much as possible to be able to fulfill and to be able to exceed our expectations of them. So the most important thing is to actually start with, what does that actually mean? Number 2, creativity flows best with an approving and nurturing response. So second thing that I think you need to do as a leader is actually take a step back and check in. How am I responding to the creative ideas that my team is already bringing me? Am I a safe receptacle for them to bring new ideas? Often we think we are, but what's actually happening is we're becoming too critical or too judgmental, and so it can shut down the creative energy that might already be flowing. So one example of this might be, let's say your team goes off and they make something, I don't know, they make something and they bring it back to you. And let's say that it's like almost there. It's maybe like 85% of what you would want. If your first communication to them is about that 15% that's missing, with no acknowledgement of the 85% that's totally awesome, you are probably shutting down creative, dynamic energy more than you are inviting it. So just take a look and check in. You could even ask for some feedback on this. How creative are you able to be on my team? How could I be responding in a way that might be more nurturing? Number 3, how creative and vulnerable are you being as the leader? This is a really confronting one because it's asking us to do a little bit of a self-assessment of like, okay, am I asking something that I'm actually not also practicing or also dishing out? As leaders in any space, in any environment, when you are leading, you are creating an energetic clearing. It is going to tell people around you what to expect from you. It's also going to subtly suggest to them how they should be in that space with you. Sometimes it's implicit and sometimes it's explicit. It depends on your leadership style. But often when we want to see more creativity, we're not actually bringing our own creativity as well. You're asking for something that you're not willing to give. And plenty of leaders do that. It leads to burnout and resentment. And I think the most wonderful opportunity that you have to bring more creativity and to actually receive it from your team is to start practicing and giving it to yourself. So what that might look like, it might be cool to actually do a little bit of journaling about, how do I know that I'm being creative? And what does that mean for me in a work setting? What are some of the ways that I can tap into that energy and just practice leading from that energy? For me, just one example of this is that, so West of Wonderland, my podcast and leadership coaching business with my amazing partner, Bay Quiney. West of Wonderland one of I think it was kind of our little beginning actually, before we even had a podcast and before we had a training company. The first thing that we ever did together was we hosted a really cute little New Year's workshop. We're coaches. Why not? Let's celebrate and get together and just have a fun, cozy vibe and talk about the last year and celebrate and create some goals for next year. And we have since done this 4 years in a row. And every year that we've done it, we've gotten to evolve. And it's kind of like it's wonderfully west of Wonderland in that what we're doing is a lot of very deep personal development work and goal setting. But we're also doing it with a lot of magical media infused in that. And magical media is just my cutesy way of saying like things from the wizarding world and Disney movies and fantasy stories that really speak to us, things that incorporate the hero's journey or characters that we feel very inspired by and very comforted by. I don't know, for some of us, it just gives a different edge to self-development work. So anyway, that's one of the things we're up to at West of Wonderland. And this past year, the workshop that we did, I created a really cool activity that Bay then turned into a very neat Tom Riddle's diary kind of exercise. I'm not going to give anything away because we're probably going to do it again. But we were reflecting on how the workshop had gone. And one of the things that Bay said was she was like, the depth of vulnerability that people were bringing to this workshop, it was like 5 layers deeper than we've ever gotten to go before in a 2-hour workshop. And we've been doing this for a number of years now. And I've been coaching for almost 12. And it was startling and beautiful how vulnerable people were and how willing they were to share with us about what the exercise had brought up and opened up. And I think that a huge part of that, while I do think the exercise was brilliant and I'm really proud of it, I think a lot of it was because when I was introducing it, I wasn't being super facilitative, like, this is what you're about to do. I was actually just speaking from the heart and being relaxed and being comfortable and being vulnerable in how I was introducing it so that everyone could actually relax and get into that energy. So in my very being, I wasn't demanding anything. I was actually just inviting us all to relax into it. So that was a very nerdy, ontological coach kind of way to tell you about that. But the energy that we lead from has a really big impact on what people are going to be giving back to us. Number 4, practice being 1% more creative yourself. Okay? And this could be at work. I also have a whole video about how to be more creative in your boring job that has some fun tips about things that you can do to integrate your creativity into your workday. But this also might just be for you to bring a little bit more creativity into your daily life. And when you do that, you're supporting that clearing that I was talking about. You're supporting the energy that you're giving to your team. Even if it's not explicitly happening, you're not communicating it verbally, you are communicating it energetically, and they will get it, and it will shift something. So number 5 is to actually practice acknowledging and celebrating the creativity that's coming from your team, even if it's not something that you end up using. So with creativity, the creative process, I could talk about it for 80 million years. I have classes about it. I love the creative process. Like, it's super cool, and I love getting nerdy about it, especially on a team level. That's not the point of this. The point of this is that creativity needs appreciation, and it needs celebration, and it needs to feel held and understood. And so if your team, sometimes the creative process demands that you make like 10 things and you use 3, but you have to make the 10 to distill them down to the best 3. So don't let those extra 7 things go unacknowledged, right? Like, actually take the time sometimes to acknowledge and celebrate the effort and the great creativity that went into different things, even if it doesn't end up going anywhere. I have a number of clients who, their team will create things. They'll kind of go through that process of, okay, we made 10, we need 3 or 2, and then it's distilled down to 3. And then my client will bring it to their higher ups, and then they present those 3 things, etc. So, and then they come back to their team to say, here's how it went, thank you, etc. I think it's so important not only to say hey, here's what those 2 or 3 things did for, our senior leadership, et cetera, but also to say, hey, here's the impact that your 10 things had on me as the leader. And those 10 things had me going in super confident. Here's what happened, da, 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 da. And actually spending the time to acknowledge the creative strengths and the impact that level of creativity has had on the team and on you and on the larger organization. It will feel like too much positive reinforcement because we are starved for appreciation and positive reinforcement in our creativity. So let it be too much. Your team will feel so appreciated and you'll all have a great time. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in to the Creativity Broadcast. I will see you really soon. And if you want some more information, I've got links below. You can catch us on West of Wonderland podcast. You can grab my book, yada, yada, yada. It's all linked below. Okay, thanks. Bye.